So question number 4, how are you tackling the cold start problem? So the cold start problem is a term coined by current a16z partner Andrew Chen. He writes a book about it that describes the initial problem all marketplaces have of having to get buyers and sellers on the platform to transact with one another. Not only do you need buyers and sellers, but you need enough buyers and sellers to keep the marketplace fresh, or else it'll move, at a snail's pace and get stagnant. If you're on eBay and you're the 50th user on eBay, there's only like 4 things you can buy, and it'll take a long time for new things to come onto the platform. That's the cold start problem. How do you get that? How do you make that experience great from day one? So, I need to know that the founder has thought about this problem or has some unique growth hacks to get going. And hopefully, the founder has heard Tinder's solution to the cold start problem as just a masterclass of jumpstarting growth. Andrew Chen, when talking about Tinder and their growth strategy, he said, quote, "They tried to invite a bunch of friends off their address book. It didn't work. So what they realized was, well, maybe we just need a bunch of people. How do we get a lot of people, hundreds of people, onto the app at the same time?" And one of the co-founders had a friend on the USC campus that was very popular, very social person, and said, "What if we throw this birthday party for this girl, and it'll just be this really amazing, really sick birthday party, and it'll be sponsored. We'll just go all out, but we're going to put a bouncer in front of the door, and we're going to make sure that to enter the party, you have to install Tinder." And so the founders of Tinder, got a couple hundred people to go to this party. All the people who were at this party installed Twitter, installed Tinder, and they didn't use the app that day. But the next morning, they all woke up and they all had this app, and they were like, "Oh, there's all these cute people that I hadn't talked to last night. Now I can like swipe through them and I can message them and start that conversation." And, you're just like, "Oh my God, that's amazing." And then from that, they were able to take over the rest of USC. Once you figure out how to build an atomic network, which is, what is the smallest network that you need that you can retain and be engaged and be functional. So they figured out that it's 500 people or so. And so once you just build one atomic network, you can build a second one and third one, end quote. So this story, I love this story. I've read it so many times. It's just genius stuff by the Tinder founders. Again, perfectly targeting their market. Young people looking for relationships or hookups, whatever it is, they tend to go to parties and tend to be the good looking ones. That's good for Tinder. So if you're a marketplace business, you need a plan around the cold start problem. Again, starting a marketplace with no users or very few users. Because again, it's not possible to slowly scale as a marketplace because it's not going to be interesting. And users will leave if the marketplace is stagnant. So then you'll keep getting new users and then they'll keep leaving and you'll just have that continuous problem. So you got to do something like the Twitter founders, where you can get a few hundred people on the site at once and have some type of marketplace brewing, but then you have to spread the word as fast as possible to get more people on as soon as you possibly can to keep that marketplace alive. So, I'm asking this question because I'm looking for the founder to have some unique strategy that solves this problem. Ideally, they can find, a Tinder-like solution and throw a sweet party or some type of unique way to get a few hundred people on the platform at once. That can be hard. If they can't do that, hopefully they can create, a really strong referral program off of their first users from their initial growth hack. And, by doing so, they can create viral loops, which are essentially the catalyst of network effects. And so Andrew Chen, again, who we just described, a16z partner, talks about the importance and kind of dynamics around viral loops. So he says, quote, "Viral loops are important because they are extremely scalable, free, and don't require a formal partnership. This is based on users directly or indirectly sharing a product with their friends or colleagues and having that loop repeat itself. The important point here is that loops aren't just conceptual, but you can actually measure their efficiency as well. If you can get 1,000 users to invite and sign up 600 of their friends, then you have a ratio of 0.6. But that's just in the first cycle of the loop, because then those 600 new users generate, 0.6, 60% of those new users to get 360 new users, who then generate 60% off of that to get 216 users. And so now, based off that initial cohort of 1,000 users who signed up, you have over 1,500 signups from that initial base of 1,000. You have more like 2,000 signups. That's meaningful because then for every user you get through other means, you're amplifying their effect. End quote. So that's such a confusing quote, I bet, to listen to on a podcast. I probably didn't explain it well. So this is actually a good time to plug the Substack. If you want to read along to a written version of this podcast, essentially, very similar things, you could open All Things VC on Substack, and you can read along, help understand these quotes a little better, maybe. Or if you prefer to read, you can just stop listening now and read the rest. I would be upset. But anyway, so viral loops. To paraphrase that quote, essentially you get 1,000 users. If you have a strong referral program and they can refer 600 new people to the platform, then those 600 new people will refer 60%, which means they get 360 new users who will also refer 60%. So that's the viral loop. If you have a strong referral program, you can create a viral loop that just, if you get an initial strong base of users, there's that loop of referrals and new users and referrals and new users. So viral loops are obviously hard to pull off, but I think the best way to go about this is through a very effective referral program, or have just ideally such an interesting app and incredible product, like an Open Table, that they just tell their friends about it. So some interesting examples of referral programs creating viral loops would be, Facebook required you to have 10 friends upon signing up, which encourage referrals, create viral loops, because that one user now brought in 10 people, and then each of those 10 people now has to bring in 10 new people so they can all have friends and use the app. Maybe some of them already use the app, so they're not bringing in 10 completely new people, but again, that's a way of just encouraging referrals and creating a viral loop. Other companies with less incredible viral loop strategies like Facebook, other companies like Uber, would give free rides or ride credits in the early days for referring a friend. The best case scenario is Instagram, which essentially just exploded from day one with users obsessively telling their friends to download the app. So I really like the Tinder example here. I really like the Facebook example here. Those are some free and scalable and just interesting ways to build, viral loops, which are really viral to jumpstart growth and, again, solve this cold start problem. And so, all these plans are viable. Obviously, the least amount of paid marketing, the better. But if you had to pay for marketing, I would try to pay for a very strong referral program, than for just generic Facebook or TikTok ads. I mean, I don't know too much about this. I haven't I haven't tried this with a startup of my own, but I'd assume, at least with referral programs, that user likes the product enough to want to bring on their friends. And that friend they bring on, likely has similar interests with other friends. And then their friend will, enjoy the product as well. So they'll bring them in, because you're kind of, instead of just targeting a bunch of random people, you're just targeting friend groups. And if you can just capture friend groups and capture new friend groups, that's a very viable way to grow. So it's just a little more targeted of a marketing strategy. So, if you can't grow quickly through word of mouth, if you don't have that Open Table, incredible friction reducing experience for users that just cause them to love the product, and you have product led marketing, I would suggest a very strong and enticing referral program. So I'd ask founders, how are you combating the cold start problem? Because ideally I can hear an entire plan about how they're addressing this. Ideally they have a really interesting Tinder-like plan to adopt many users at once. And if that doesn't work, they have some other plans in their back pocket about referral programs, because the marketplace has to move fast. So hopefully founders have some follow-on marketing strategies to try to get some viral loops growing, because I need them to create some type of viral marketing. It's an essential first step for a marketplace So, I need to know the founder knows that and, isn't getting too ahead of their skis of, we'll get to 1 million users and everything will be well. Because the worst case scenario that can happen is, they pay for all these ads, they get a few hundred users onboarded, but the platform's not growing quickly enough. So that experience is a poor experience for users, and then they'll leave, and then you have to repeat that process with a new few hundred users and so on and so forth. So ideally, the capital I give in this investment, turbocharges their marketing ability and allows them to try new things and see what really works. And then they can grow the app fast and enhance that experience for users, before it's too late.